Yeah, because if I can see what it is, then we could maybe figure out what's going on. All right, so we are going to venture into quadrilaterals now. Quadrilaterals have 4 sides. One of the quadrilaterals that we are going to get to know very well is parallelograms. So that's what we're going to start off with today, is parallelograms. So we are going to talk about a few different theorems involving parallelograms, things we know when we have parallelograms. The first one is that opposite sides in a parallelogram are congruent. So let's see, we can draw out a parallelogram. What makes it a parallelogram? Parallel? Opposite sides are parallel. I assumed you knew that. Okay. Well, now you know if you didn't know it. So, this first theorem says the opposite sides in a parallelogram are congruent. So which sides would have to be congruent? A, B, and C, D, yep. What other sides would have to be congruent? B, C, and AD. Okay, so the opposite side should definitely be congruent. Second theorem tells us, there you go, you can go anywhere, hall, in here, wherever you want to go. The second one says the opposite angles need to be congruent. Okay, so in this diagram, what are the opposite angles?
A, B, and B, and C.
Okay, so angle A and C would be congruent, and B and D would be congruent. Okay. Third one. Consecutive angles are supplementary. There's 2 vocab words in there that we should know. First one, consecutive. What does that mean? Yep, right next to each other. And then supplementary. 180. So adds up to 180. So what would be the consecutive angles here? A and D, or A and B. So like angle A plus angle D should be 180. Could also say angle A plus angle B should be 180. B and C, C and D, D and A. Okay, those are all consecutive. So when we're right next to each other, they should add to give us 180. Next theorem, if a parallelogram has 1 right angle, then it has 4 right angles. Why would that be the case? One of the angles is right. So let's say angle A has 90 degrees. Why do all the others have to be 90 degrees? Yeah, well, and because the consecutive are supplementary, right? So if this one's 90, the one next to it has to be 90. Well, the one next to it would have to be 90, and the one next to it would have to be 90, because the consecutives are supplementary. And last one here is that the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. That's a terrible parallelogram. So what does it mean if they bisect each other? Yeah, they split each other in half. So those 2 segments would be equal, and those 2 would be equal. Okay, so when we're dealing with parallelograms, we have to keep all of these things in mind. And based off of our diagram and the given information, we should be able to use that information to help us solve for missing pieces. Okay, so our first example, we have LMNP is a parallelogram. We want to find the measure of angle PLM and the measure of angle LMN and D. What do you want to try to find first? Okay, so the first angle, PLM? Or did you say angle N? Okay. What would angle N have to be if this one's 42 degrees and that's 66 degrees? 108. I'm glad your adding skills are awesome. Okay, so if that's 108 degrees, what else is 108 degrees? Yeah, the L. This whole angle L here would also be 108 degrees. Is that our PLM that we're asking for? PLM? Yep, so measure of angle PLM is equal to 108 degrees.
Would the angle L be 72 degrees?
Yeah, very good. So now LMN, this would have to be 72 degrees. Why does that have to be 72 degrees? Yeah, it's got to equal 180. So we do 180 minus 108 would give us that 72 degrees. So the measure of angle LMN is 72 degrees. Is that okay? Okay, we got to find D. How can we find D?
2D equals 22.
Yep, 2D equals 22. Why does 2D have to equal 22? Yeah, opposite sides are congruent. So what does D equal? 11. Well, at least you got one of the operations down, right? So is that example okay? Do another. Ready for the next one? RSTU is a parallelogram. Find the measure of angle URT and the measure of angle RST and Y.
40 degrees.
So what's 40 degrees?
URT.
Okay, URT. So we're talking about this angle right in here. So you're telling me that this is 40 degrees. Why?
Because opposite, whatever, yeah.
Alternate interior angles of parallel lines are congruent. So that would be definitely correct. So the measure of angle URT should be 40 degrees. RST now.
How come we added on the last one, those two?
Okay, that's a good question. So how come we added on the last one but not on this one? The last time we were looking for that entire angle. So like URS, we would have to add these together to get the whole angle. But we're only looking for URT. So we're only looking for that one part of the angle. That's the difference.
Now, can't you add 40 and 18 minus?
We could add 40 and 18, and that would give us this whole angle T here. And then we would subtract that from 180. So what would be 40 and 18 together? 58 degrees. So then to find this angle S, we'd have to do 180 minus 58. 122 degrees. So the measure of angle RST, 122 degrees. Clearly this is not drawn to scale for a parallelogram. That's fine. And Y.
3y.
Yeah, it's fine. So 3y should equal 18. So what's y? 6. Once again, you got your division skills down. Is that okay? Why this one's just 40? Well, let's look at the angle that we're asked for URT. URT. So we only want to know this portion of the angle. Well, if we only want to know that portion of the angle, these two would have to be equal to each other because we have the two parallel lines here. Our previous example, we wanted to find PLM. So we wanted the whole angle. So to get the whole angle, we would have had to add these two together. Make sense now? Okay. All right, one last example. Use parallelogram JKLM to find each measure or value if JK is 2b plus 3 and JM is 3a. So what should I do with those values first off? All right, put them on down. So JK 2b plus 3jm is 3a. Okay, so how am I going to find a?
3a equals 21.
Okay, so then what's a? 7. How am I going to find b?
2b plus 3 equals 45.
So what does 2b equal? Minus 3, so
42.
42, so what's b?
I don't know how to subtract that.
21. Those two okay? All right. So now we do need to add on one more problem onto this one. Yes. If I don't add it on, then when you get to the problem in your assignment, you're going to say, Miss Burns, you didn't do an example like this with us. Okay. Let's call this middle point x. Okay. So let's see here. Jx is equal to, I don't know, 4y. And JL is equal to, I don't know, what's a nice number? 60. Find y.
Oh, you add them together, right?
Well, let's see. Okay, so Jx is here. So this is 4y. What's JL? What's JL? JL is this whole length, isn't it?
Yeah.
So are those two really equal to each other? What do we know about the diagonals, though?
They're like parallel.
The diagonals bisect?
Yes.
So if the diagonals bisect,
8y,
yeah.
equals 60.
Yeah, so if the diagonals bisect, if this is 4y, that also has to be 4y. Thank you. So now what equation can we create? 8y equals 60. So then what is our y? What?
Wouldn't it be like
Yep, 7.5. Is that okay? Does that make sense? So your assignment is
page what?
415. I don't really think that says 10. Does that say 16 or does that say 10? 16 through 31 and 52 to 57.
Is a lot of it just like finding an angle?
Finding the missing parts, yeah.